Goku had crossed impossible distances before. He had crossed snake roads measured in lifetimes, gaps between planets in the space between heartbeats, and the invisible boundaries between the living world and the next. Distance, in the end, had never really meant much to him. If he could sense someone, he could reach them. If he could reach them, he could stand beside them. Simple. This time, it stopped being simple. On a lonely world of smooth stone and pale sky, Goku vanished and reappeared in bursts too fast for ordinary eyes to follow, trading blows with Vegeta, while Whis watched from the edge of a shattered training plateau with serene amusement. Each clash sent rings of force across the horizon. Dust rose, mountains far away trembled. "You're hesitating," Vegeta snapped, skidding back over fractured rock. "If that's all you've got, I'm wasting my time." Goku grinned, wiped blood from the corner of his mouth, and dropped into stance. "No, I'm just thinking. There's this weird feeling out there." Vegeta's eyes narrowed. "What weird feeling?" "Not Ki. Not exactly." Goku looked up, beyond clouds, beyond stars. "More like millions of voices, all shouting at once. But it's messy. Sick, almost." Whis tilted his head with sudden interest. "That is unusual." Goku closed his eyes. He had always followed signatures. Friends, enemies, gods, familiar souls, once even the smallest spark of hope in unimaginable darkness. What touched his awareness now was different, vast, agitated, thick with pain, rage, fear, prayer, and something else beneath it all that felt like a wound, trying to think. He reached for it carefully. The world lurched. Vegeta moved first, hand shooting out. Kakarot! The air around Goku split with a sound like glass, remembering how it had once been sand. Blue light inverted into black-violet static. Whis' staff flashed, but the distortion swallowed Goku before either of them could anchor him. For one terrible instant, Goku felt himself stretched through a tunnel, made not of space, but of contradiction. Up and down dissolved. Direction stopped making sense. There were shapes in the dark that were not alive in any way he understood, yet reacted to his presence with hungry curiosity. Then gravity returned all at once. He dropped out of a bruised red sky over a city already on fire. Sirens wailed between towers of iron and stone. Anti-air batteries hammered upward from cathedral-like bastions. Searchlights swept smoke-choked clouds. Thousands of soldiers in gray armor packed trench lines carved directly into plazas and hab-block avenues, firing into swarming figures that moved too wildly to be men and too deliberately to be beasts. Goku hit the ground, in the middle of a shell crater, as artillery thundered in every direction. Mud, ash, blood, and broken masonry exploded outward. Nearby soldiers screamed and leveled weapons at him instantly. Training overriding shock. Across the blasted avenue, huge armored giants in blue and gold were advancing through gunfire beside tanks draped in purity seals and skull-marked banners. Above them, something like a ripped-open thunderstorm hung low over the skyline, leaking red lightning and shapes that should not fit inside weather. Goku stood, coughed once, and looked around. This definitely isn't Earth. A dozen rifles fired. The red beams struck him and scattered across his skin with enough force to blast chunks from the crater wall behind him. Goku blinked, more surprised than hurt, then lifted both hands. "Hey, wait. I'm not here to fight you." No one listened. An officer in a black greatcoat and peaked cap screamed fresh orders. Heavy weapons opened up. Missile trails crossed above the street. Goku vanished, reappeared on a shattered statue 10 meters above the crater, and sighed. Okay, not a great first impression. Then he felt it. That wrongness in the sky was growing. The huge tier above the city was widening with every pulse of fear below, feeding on panic, on slaughter, on belief sharpened into desperation. It was not Ki. It was not life. It was something parasitic, nourished by emotion and made stronger by suffering. He felt civilians trapped in the lower ruins, 2 blocks away, a tank crew buried alive beneath a collapsed chapel, terrified soldiers praying in languages he did not know, and through all of it the storm above thickening like a scab over an infected wound. A shell screamed down toward a line of refugees sprinting from a burning transit tunnel. Goku moved before anyone could even point. The shell struck his open palm and stopped. He looked at it, then at the civilians frozen in terror below. "That one's enough!" He flicked it upward. It vanished into the clouds and detonated harmlessly. For the first time, the soldiers nearest him hesitated. That hesitation lasted only until the tear in the sky widened, and something stepped halfway through. It was enormous, horned, plated in brass-black armor grown into its own flesh, with a blade that leaked heat like a wound leaks blood. Around it, reality bent in revulsion. The creature's laughter rolled across the avenue, and men who had held their ground against artillery dropped their weapons to clutch bleeding ears. The officer in black found his voice first. "Daemon, hold the line!" The line broke immediately. Panic rippled through the human ranks. Some soldiers fired at the monster. Some fired at Goku, deciding 2 impossible threats were worse than one. The blue armor giants across the square advanced harder, disciplined even in the face of the thing descending from the sky. But Goku could already tell from the pressure in the air that this creature was stronger than the fear around it. It was using the tear, widening it, bringing more of that corruptive force into the city. He looked up at it and frowned. "You're the reason this place feels so awful." The giant daemon landed atop the wreck of a transport convoy and crushed steel under hoofed feet. Its blade rose, fire spilled from its maw. In another life, in another universe, an opponent this big might have excited Goku. Here, all he felt was anger, because the creature wasn't here for a good fight. It wasn't interested in testing itself. It was feeding on terror, on the weak, on collapse. The daemon pointed its weapon at him. "You are not of this slaughter," it growled, every word accompanied by sparks and the smell of hot copper. "Yet your soul burns bright. Spill it here, little son, and let a red god drink." Goku's expression hardened. "No thanks." He launched straight upward. The impact of his first punch folded the daemon's head sideways and sent a shockwave tearing down the length of the avenue. Windows exploded for a mile. Tanks rocked on their treads. The horned giant staggered, more offended than damaged, and swung its blade in a brutal horizontal arc. Goku slipped under it, drove a second strike into the daemon's ribs, and felt something strange. The body was real enough to hit, but unstable, like it was only half committed to existing here. Ki rushed from his fist into the creature, and the daemon screamed not from pain, but from violation. His energy didn't just damage it. It disrupted the thing, burned along the seams where that foul storm above was holding it together. Interesting. The daemon backhanded him through the side of a shrine tower. Stone rained into the square. Goku burst out of the collapse, shook dust from his hair, and smiled despite himself. "So that's how it works." Red lightning gathered around the giant. More shapes crowded the tier overhead, eager to follow. Goku looked from the sky to the shattered streets below, to the soldiers scrambling to regroup, to civilians still trying to escape, and made his decision. He exhaled. Gold rose around him like a second sunrise. The whole battlefield stopped. His hair flashed upward, his eyes sharpened, and a clean, living radiance spread across the plaza in a wave. Men and women who had been weeping from the psychic pressure suddenly found it easing. The red lightning above thinned where the golden aura touched it. The daemon recoiled as if from a heat it had never known. One of the blue-armored giants removed his helmet, revealing a hard-featured warrior with ritual scars and cold, intelligent eyes. He stared upward at Goku with the expression of a man watching a theorem punch a hole through religion. The officer in black crossed himself and whispered something about saints. Goku ignored them all. "You came to hurt people who can't fight back," he said to the daemon. "Now you've got me." He vanished. The next 10 seconds became legend for everyone who saw them. Golden impacts flowered around the daemon faster than human sight could separate. Each strike peeled more of that unnatural energy off it, forcing its huge form to flicker between solidity and smoke. The thing howled, swung wildly, slammed its blade into the street hard enough to split the avenue open. But Goku stayed just beyond each blow. Then he drove both hands forward and unleashed a compact burst of ki, point blank, into the creature's chest. The daemon did not explode. It came apart, not into meat or ash, but into sheets of red-black flame, broken symbols, and a scream that recoiled upward into the tier from which it had come. The sky wound buckled, destabilized, and Goku shot after it, cupping his hands at his side as he rose above the city. Below him, soldiers, space marines, tank crews, priests, refugees, and heretics alike all looked up. Blue-white light gathered between his palms. Kamehameha! The beam punched into the center of the tier and drove through it like a spear through rotten cloth. The sky split wider for a heartbeat, revealing impossible landscapes beyond fortresses of bone, seas of faces, storms with teeth. Then the beam detonated in a bloom of living light. The wound convulsed, shrank, and slammed shut with a thunderclap that blew every banner in the city straight outward. Silence fell. Real silence, the kind that came only when guns forgot they existed. Goku descended slowly into the center of the plaza and powered down, breathing a little harder now. The air still felt wrong, but less suffocating, cleaner. The officer in black raised his pistol with shaking hands. The blue-armored giant stopped him with one gauntleted arm. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then the giant stepped forward, helmet tucked under one arm, sword in the other hand lowered but ready. "I am Captain Akastian of the Ultramarines," he said, voice clipped, formal, dangerous. "You have performed acts beyond known classification in a war zone under Imperial authority. State your nature." Goku scratched the back of his head. "I'm Goku." Akastian waited. "That's it?" he asked finally. "Son Goku, if you want the full version. That is not a species. It is where I'm from." The captain's stare did not change. Around him, space marines in cobalt plate spread into a perimeter. Human soldiers took confidence from their presence and formed ranks again, though none looked eager to test their weapons a second time. A man in black robes, decorated with silver seals, pushed through the guards. His eyes were hooded, severe, calculating. "I am Inquisitor Lyrus Vorn," he said. "Do not move." Goku looked at the circle surrounding him and gave a helpless little laugh. "You all really like saying that." "You appeared from nowhere," Vorn said. "You withstood Imperial weapons without injury. You destroyed a daemon without sanctioned rites, psychic invocation, or visible technological apparatus. Explain." "I was training," Goku said. "Then I felt something weird. Then everything sort of broke. Then I ended up here." Captain Akastian's expression suggested this answer helped no one. One of the Ultramarines' librarians stepped forward, a psychic hood framing his pale face in arcs of blue light. "Permit a surface reading, Captain. If it is warp-born, I will know." Goku felt the man's mind touch his, and instinctively did nothing. It was not a hostile strike at first, more like careful fingers reaching toward a fire. The librarian screamed. He dropped to one knee, hands flying to his temples as blood ran from his nose. The psychic hood on his back spat sparks. Every other psyker in the plaza recoiled simultaneously. Nothing. The librarian gasped. No purchase. No familiar structure. His soul. Emperor, preserve me. It is too clean to grasp. That changed everything. Weapons came up again, but this time not only from fear, from certainty that fear had failed to classify. Goku groaned. Look, can we maybe not do this? I just got here. You will submit for examination, Inquisitor Vorn said. Voluntarily, if you are wiser than you appear. By force if not. Before Goku could answer, all the surviving Auspex units in the plaza began shrieking. Another rupture was forming. Not overhead this time, below. The street split in a line of red light between Goku and the Imperials. Brass chains burst upward from the crack, followed by a flood of lesser daemons and the thunder of boots from a new wave of traitor marines surging through smoke at the far end of the avenue. The first wound had not been the source. It had been bait. The real incursion had been burrowing up through the city's pain while everyone stared at the sky. Captain Acastian swore and drew his blade fully. Inquisitor Vorn spun to issue orders. Goku looked from the rift to the Imperials around him and sighed. Can I help now? Or do we have to argue more first? Acastian met his eyes for a fraction of a second, made a battlefield decision, and nodded once. Help. That was enough. The next hour was chaos in the purest military sense. Confusion, smoke, overlapping commands, impossible enemies and split-second choices, but with one crucial difference. Wherever Goku moved, the tide changed. He carried tanks out of collapsing avenues. He tore apart warp-spawned artillery engines before they could level evacuation corridors. He learned quickly that the blue-armored space marines were far stronger than ordinary humans, disciplined beyond reason and terrifyingly willing to die if the line required it. He also learned that they rarely laughed, almost never hesitated, and considered survival a logistical detail rather than a right. When traitor marines in Baroque crimson plate emerged through the ruins chanting to some blood-soaked god, Goku broke their charge in the middle by dropping from above like a meteor. When a winged horror carried away a wounded guardsman, Goku snatched both out of the air and dropped the soldier behind Imperial lines before punching the creature clean out of existence. When a collapsing Habspire threatened to bury 2,000 civilians sheltering beneath it, he planted himself under the falling mass and held it long enough for evacuation crews to clear the lower levels, even as artillery detonated all around him. That last act made the ordinary soldiers stop whispering daemon and start whispering something else. By nightfall, the city still burned, but it remained in Imperial hands. The second incursion had been sealed. The traitor push had broken. Inquisitor Vorn's interrogators rounded up cultists by the dozen. Ultramarines secured key districts. And Goku, sitting cross-legged atop the broken wing of a cathedral statue, eating ration packs as fast as attendants could bring them, looked like a man who had accidentally wandered into the strangest tournament bracket in existence. Captain Acastian approached alone this time, helmet on his belt. You saved lives, he said. Yeah, Goku replied through a mouthful. That was the plan. The captain studied him in silence. Inquisitor Vorn still believes you are a threat. The Librarius cannot define you. My men have no useful precedent. Yet you fought the archenemy with no hesitation and showed repeated concern for civilians under fire. He paused. I have transmitted all reports to higher command. Higher than you? Much. Goku swallowed and looked at the dark sky. That sounds serious. It is. The Lord Commander himself has requested you be brought to him. Goku blinked. Who's that? Acastian seemed genuinely shocked by the question. Roboute Guilliman, he said. Primarch of the Ultramarines, Regent of the Imperium, Goku smiled. Okay, he's strong? Captain Akastian stared at him for a long moment. Then very briefly, something close to amusement touched the corner of his mouth. Yes, he said. By our standards, impossibly. Great, Goku said, standing in one smooth motion. Let's go. The battle barge that carried them out of the war zone was larger than many cities Goku had visited. Its corridors were cathedrals disguised as warships. Every wall held relics, warnings, names of the dead, and prayers carved into metal thick enough to survive a mountain falling on it. Servitors shuffled through the halls on half-human legs, carrying ammunition or sensors or their own diminished memories. Everywhere Goku looked, he saw signs of enormous power and enormous fear. The fear interested him more. Not individual fear. Civilizational fear. A whole species building itself like a clenched fist because it no longer believed the hand could open without being cut off. Tigurius, chief librarian of the Ultramarines, joined him during transit. Unlike a Castian, Tigurius carried an inner stillness, the kind Goku associated with old masters and dangerous thinkers. You make our psychers uncomfortable, Tigurius said without preamble. Goku laughed. I noticed. The energy you wield is neither warp-sourced nor machine-mediated. It behaves like spirit made obedient. Pretty close, Goku said. We call it ki, and all living beings possess this. Yeah, some people can shape it better than others. Tigurius considered that. Then your universe may be kinder than ours. Goku's expression softened. Not always, but maybe less. Hungry. That word made Tigurius look away for a moment. When at last they reached Macragge and the fortress of Hera, Goku expected another city. He was wrong. It was a world of discipline-made architecture. Every angle deliberate, every avenue defensive, every dome and bastion and landing field part of a larger plan laid down by a mind that thought in centuries. The very air felt more ordered here, not cleaner than the world he had arrived on, but less close to collapse. And at the center of it, in a chamber large enough to hold a mountain shrine, Roboute Guilliman waited. He was not what Goku expected. He was bigger, for one thing, physically immense, broad-shouldered, wrapped in blue and gold armor that made even the space marines around him seem almost ordinary by comparison. But size wasn't the real difference. It was the pressure of him. Not killing intent, not exactly. More like responsibility condensed into shape. The feeling of someone who had been carrying a civilization on his back so long he no longer remembered what it meant to stand straight. Guilliman looked up from a hololithic display of a dozen war zones and dismissed everyone except Tigurius, Akastian, and Inquisitor Vorn. For a while, he simply studied Goku. At last, he spoke. You are smaller than the report suggested. Goku grinned. I get that a lot. And you speak casually in the presence of power. I do that a lot, too. Guilliman's eyes narrowed just slightly. Not offended, more curious. I am Roboute Guilliman. I'm Goku. I know. A pause. Then, the Primarch stepped down from his command dais and stopped only a few paces away. Up close, he felt like a fortress choosing to walk. You have entered a galaxy on the edge of extinction, Guilliman said. Within days of arrival, you saved an Imperial city from demonic breach, defeated entities that killed companies of my finest warriors, and confounded the sanest minds available to me. Before I determine what to do with you, I require one answer above all others. Okay, what are you for? The question surprised Goku. Not who are you? Not what can you do? What are you for? He thought about it seriously. I like fighting strong opponents, he said at last. I like pushing past my limits. I like getting better. But if that was all I cared about, I'd just be a problem for everyone around me. So I protect people too. Friends family, anyone who can't protect themselves. That's what power is for. Guilliman held his gaze. In this age, the Primarch said quietly, many would call that answer naive. Maybe, Goku said. Doesn't make it wrong. Inquisitor Vorn shifted, clearly unhappy with the direction of the conversation. Lord Guilliman, regardless of its claims, it remains an unknown Xenos, adjacent anomaly with impossible capabilities, and Guilliman raised one hand. Silence fell instantly. He never looked away from Goku. Would you submit to imprisonment if I ordered it? He asked. No. Would you submit to dissection? Goku stared at him. Definitely not. Would you fight for the Imperium of Man if I requested it? Depends, Goku said. That, more than the refusals, seemed to interest Guilliman. On what? On who you want me fighting. If it's monsters from that storm place, sure. If it's somebody just because they're different from you, probably not. I've seen enough of this universe already to know you people don't exactly do subtle. Tigurius closed his eyes briefly, perhaps in prayer, perhaps to hide a reaction. Inquisitor Vorn looked scandalized. Guilliman, to Goku's surprise, almost smiled. You are either fearless, the Primarch said, or completely unfamiliar with the consequences of honesty in my realm. Bit of both. The Primarch turned away and walked back toward the hololith. Then let us proceed honestly. What followed was not an interrogation, but something rarer, an exchange. Goku told him about Ki in broad terms, about training, transformation, the way power could be disciplined instead of worship. He did not explain everything. Some things were too strange, even here. He said little about gods except that being strong did not automatically make one worthy of respect. Guilliman, in turn, explained enough of the Imperium that Goku almost wished he hadn't asked. Endless war, endless sacrifice, endless institutions built to keep humanity alive, even as they crushed so much of what made survival worth having. It wasn't meant to become this, Guilliman said at one point, the weariness finally showing through his control. But 10,000 years of catastrophe teaches species the wrong lessons with terrible efficiency. Goku looked around the chamber full of war maps and casualty projections and thought of all the worlds out there living under this weight. You know, he said, where I'm from, I've fought a lot of really awful people, but most of the worst ones started by deciding only they knew what survival was supposed to look like. The room went still. Akastian's hand flexed near his sword hilt. Vorn inhaled sharply. Guilliman said nothing for several seconds. Then, quietly, you presume much. Maybe, Goku said. But you asked for honesty. The Primarch's jaw tightened, then loosened again. Yes, he said. I did. Before anyone could say more, alarms roared. Every hololith in the chamber shifted at once. A region of Ultramar burned red. Naval Vox traffic flooded in. Warp signatures bloomed around an industrial moon called Thessala Minor. World Eaters, trader fleet elements, cult uprisings in multiple hive clusters, and at the center of it all, a growing pressure of rage so immense, even Goku felt it through the deck. Guilliman's expression changed completely. No more philosopher, no more statesman. Now he was war. Angron, Tigurius said, face paling. He comes in force. Goku frowned. That someone important? Every ultramarine in the room turned toward him, as if he had asked whether gravity was optional. My brother, Guilliman said, voice cold as void. Iron. Or what remains of him? The campaign began within the hour. Thessala Minor was not a world so much as an engine wrapped in cities. Manufactorums the size of mountain ranges. Refinery spires vomiting black smoke. Billions of workers packed into Habwarren's under-industrial skies. Now, it was under assault from the 12 Legion's descendants and their demonic patronage. Civil defense had already collapsed in several sectors. Orbital docks burned. Mass panic fed the warp-like fuel into a furnace. Guilliman led from the front, because of course he did. Goku accompanied the strike force because no one sane would have asked him to stay behind once he sensed what was coming. Ultramarines' Thunderhawks plunged through red cloud banks while naval cannons traded fire overhead. Every monitor aboard showed the same thing. Slaughter spreading in patterns, too coordinated to be random. The enemy was not merely invading. It was cultivating massacre, corn. Goku didn't know the name yet, but he could feel the nature of it, the way rage was being harvested, amplified, rewarded. He hated it. Their insertion zone was an entire district turned into a ritual battlefield. Broken habs had been stacked into altars. Conveyor rivers of burning promethium cut the streets into glowing channels. Millions had either fled or died. Those who remained were trapped between berserk trader marines and demonic predators stalking the ruins. The rear ramp dropped. Guilliman was first out, sword blazing with an impossible golden fire that made even Goku glance twice. Then the Ultramarines surged into hell. The battle that followed taught Goku something important about this universe's greatest warriors. Space Marines did not fight like tournament masters or martial artists. They fought like walking fortresses guided by centuries of conditioned violence. Precise, efficient, uncompromising. Even the best among them expected loss and built tactics around it. Goku fought differently. He flew through kill zones to pull civilians out of collapsing sectors. He knocked tanks aside to clear evac lanes. He broke the backs of daemon engines with concentrated strikes and burned packs of lesser entities away with waves of ki. Where Guilliman's forces created advancing walls of steel, Goku became a needle, piercing the battle wherever it threatened to collapse. But no matter how much damage they inflicted, the pressure at the center kept growing. Then, Angron arrived. He fell from the sky with the force of an extinction event. A crater bloomed through refinery lines and cathedral foundations alike. Shockwaves flattened hab blocks already half destroyed. Red lightning raced outward in branching sheets. When the dust lifted, a giant stood in the center of the ruin, winged, chained, armored in brass and hate, an axe in each hand. Every line of him built for only one purpose. He looked at Guilliman first, then at Goku, and laughed. The sound was not merely loud. It was contagious. Men heard it and remembered every grudge they had ever tried to bury. Warriors felt it and wanted blood simply because blood wanted to be spilled. Even Goku felt the pull. Faint but real, a pressure urging him to stop caring why he fought and simply enjoy the collision. Angron pointed one blade at him. "You," he snarled. "Bright little thing. Wrong world, wrong age. Yet here you stand before the throne of murder." Goku hovered a few meters above the ground, staring back. "You're the one making everything here worse." Angron's wings spread. "I make it honest." Then he moved. The first exchange cracked the district open. Goku met the descending axe with a forearm wrapped in dense ki and nearly got driven through 3 levels of ferrocrete. The second blade missed his throat by inches as he twisted aside. Angron followed with a shoulder check that launched Goku through a refinery stack in a storm of molten metal. Strong, ridiculously strong, not just physical strength, either. The Daemon Primarch's rage distorted the battlefield around him. Every scream nearby fed him. Every death sharpened his presence. The longer the fight dragged on in populated sectors, the more the whole world tilted in his favor. Guilliman knew it too. He drove toward his brother with the Emperor's sword blazing, Ultramarines forming a spearhead at his back. But demonic and traitor reinforcements crashed in to stall him. The brothers clashed, once fire against rage, order against ruin, and the impact registered on seismic monitors half a continent away. Goku rose from the refinery wreckage, blood at his lip, and narrowed his eyes. He understood now. This wasn't just a strong opponent. It was a trap. A warrior built by a universe that wanted fighting to become an addiction, violence to become worship, anger to become identity. If Goku answered rage with rage, he would strengthen the very thing he needed to stop. Angron landed before him in a storm of debris. "Come then," the Daemon Primarch roared. "Show me how your clean little soul screams when it learns what battle truly is!" Goku breathed in. He remembered Master Roshi's first lessons, King Kai's. Whis. The difference between force and control, between strength and surrender. Then he transformed again, not into the bright, explosive fury the battlefield expected, but into something quieter. Red did not rise around him. Blue did. Godly ki settled over Goku like calm ocean light. The madness pressure pushing off Angron met it and slid away, unable to find purchase. The fires around them bent outward. Dust stopped drifting for a heartbeat. In the middle of the bloodiest battlefield in Ultramar, there was stillness. Angron hated it instantly. He attacked in a frenzy of chained steel, wings, horns, and impossible brutality. Goku did not answer with matching wrath. He moved through it, each dodge economical, each counterstrike precise. His fists landed not to indulge the fight, but to dismantle it. He targeted joints, anchor points, the places where warp, energy, and physical form were bound together. Every hit made Angron more furious, and every spike of fury slid off the blue aura and returned nothing. "That's it?" Goku said after avoiding a cleaving blow that split a macro hauler in two behind him. "You're all power and no control!" Angron bellowed and slammed both axes down. A wave of ruin tore through the district. Goku cupped one hand, gathered blue-white energy, and erased the wave in a point-blank blast before it could reach the evac columns 3 sectors back. "I get loving a fight," he said, launching upward and hammering Angron through the side of a basilica-like refinery tower. "But this?" He reappeared above the Daemon Primarch and drove him back to ground with a double axe handle strike. "This isn't love." Angron rose through the rubble, roaring. More monster now than man, Korn's pressure pounding through him like a second heartbeat. "This is freedom." "No," Goku said, hovering before him, aura cold and brilliant. "This is being owned." For the first time, something flickered in Angron's eyes beyond rage. An old wound, perhaps, or the faintest memory of chains before he chose larger ones. Then it vanished beneath madness, and the Primarch charged again. The battle climbed into the upper atmosphere. Better there than among civilians. Better in dead air than inside a world feeding his opponent with every casualty. Goku baited Angron upward, instant transmitting out of reach each time the Daemon tried to break away back toward the city. They burst through storm layers into the burning light of orbit, where debris from the Void War still fell in glittering trails beneath them. Here the rage echo weakened. Not enough, but enough. Goku wiped blood from his chin and squared his shoulders. Angron spun both axes, red lightning webbing between them. "Run no more." "Wasn't running," Goku said. "Just moving you somewhere your god can't gorge itself on everyone below." He drew in breath, let it out slowly, and allowed his power to climb. Blue brightened toward white at the edges. Angron sensed the change and lunged with everything. Goku met him head-on. Fist and axe collided. The shockwave peeled clouds off the planet below in a widening ring. Angron drove one blade down. Goku caught the haft, twisted, snapped the weapon's warp-forged chain binding, and blasted the Primarch through the chest with a point-blank burst of concentrated godly ki. The Daemon reeled. Goku seized him by the horns, locked eyes with him, and said quietly, almost sadly, You could have been more than this. Then he teleported them. Not far, just far enough. A dead moon hung in Thessala Minor's orbit, stripped for minerals centuries ago, now little more than a graveyard of abandoned machinery and mining scars. Goku and Angron hit its surface like a meteor. The moon split open. Ancient mining rigs toppled into newly born chasms. Angron tore free, laughing harder now, wild with pain and joy. Yes, he roared. Now you learn. Maybe in another universe, with a different life, Goku could have liked him. There was something almost Saiyan in the way Angron embraced challenge, but only almost, because underneath it all was still slavery rage masquerading as purpose. Goku rose above the dead moon, blue aura blazing like a star dropped into the void. He brought his hands to his side. Energy spiraled in, not frenzied, not wild, but serene and absolute. Angron spread his wings and charged up the crater wall toward him, a red comet of chains and hate. Below them, above them, through every observation screen in orbit, the forces of Ultramar and Chaos watched. Kamehameha, the beam that left Goku's hands, did not roar like ordinary destruction. It sang. Blue-white light swallowed Angron whole, drove him backward across the moon's surface, through ruins, through bedrock, through the wound that had once been a mining core. More importantly, it drove clean. Ordered ki through every warp anchor, pinning his manifested form to reality. Rage burned. Chains burned. The Red God's hold did not break because it was weaker. It broke because for one impossible moment it was forced into contact with something it had never planned for. Immense power without bloodlust. Angron screamed all the way back into the warp. When the light faded, half the moon was gone. Goku floated above the ruin, breathing hard now, power receding. For a while, he simply stared into the dark, where the Daemon Primarch had vanished. Then he looked down at the world below, and instant transmitted back. The war on Thessala Minor was not over, but its spine had snapped. Without Angron's presence, the demonic surge destabilized. Guilliman's forces counterattacked with merciless efficiency. Traitor Marines fell back toward extraction points only to find them under orbital fire. Cult uprisings lost coherence. The whole campaign tipped in a single hour from possible catastrophe to grinding Imperial victory. When Goku landed beside Guilliman amid the wreckage of a command plaza, the Primarch was drenched in black daemon blood and carrying the weight of losses, no victory erased. "He is gone?" Guilliman asked. "For now," Goku said. The Primarch nodded once, a warrior's acknowledgement, then looked over the battlefield. "You took him away from the population centers." "Yeah, you understood the strategic concern without instruction." Goku shrugged. "Didn't seem complicated." "No," Guilliman said, and there was something unexpectedly bitter in his tone. "I suppose it wouldn't." After Thessala Minor, things changed. Not the galaxy. Nothing so easy. But attitude. Ultramarines who had first watched Goku with suspicion now studied him with a kind of disciplined fascination. Apothecaries asked impossible questions about ki flow. Librarians wanted to understand why his energy harmed daemons but calmed mortal minds caught in psychic pressure. Guardsmen told increasingly absurd stories about the smiling warrior who punched a winged god off a moon. Goku, meanwhile, kept noticing the same things that bothered him from the start. Servitors, purges, casual acceptance of mass death. A whole empire so used to horror it had stopped apologizing for necessity and started calling it virtue. He and Guilliman argued more than once. Not loudly, not theatrically, but honestly. One evening, standing on a battlement overlooking Macrage's ordered lights, Guilliman asked him, "Do you believe my Imperium can be redeemed?" Goku leaned on the stone and thought about it. "I think people can get stronger," he said. Sometimes whole worlds can, but not if they keep telling themselves pain is the same as wisdom. Guilliman was silent. You really think that? I think you do too, Goku said. The Primarch let out a breath that might have been a laugh, if he had remembered how. You are infuriating. Vegeta says that a lot. I do not know who that is. You'd probably argue with him. I argue with everyone. Yeah, Goku said, smiling. I noticed, eventually. With Togurius' help and a great deal of Mechanicus machinery Goku did not pretend to understand, they began trying to find a way home. Not through the warp, everyone agreed that was a terrible idea, but through Goku himself. His instant transmission needed an anchor. He could not sense Earth from here, not clearly. But with enough focus, enough amplification, enough stillness, he could sometimes feel faint, familiar threads beyond the noise. A laugh, a stubborn glare, a calm, angelic presence watching from far away. Home. The first stable contact nearly killed 3 librarians and half a cathedral of machinery. The second lasted long enough for Goku to feel Whis searching for him. The third opened a path. It happened at dawn. Macragge's sky was pale blue, almost kind. Guilliman, Tigurius, Captain Acastian, and a guarded but still unconvinced Inquisitor Vorn stood in the chamber as Goku centered himself inside rings of humming machinery and psychic wards. You are certain? Guilliman asked. No, Goku said. But I think if I wait too long, this universe is going to try and keep me. That was true in more ways than one. He had changed things here. Perhaps not enough. Perhaps never enough. But if he stayed, he would keep changing them. And this place had a way of turning every helper into an institution, every savior into a weapon, every story into doctrine. Better to leave while he was still just himself. Guilliman stepped closer. My realm owes you a debt it cannot repay. Goku smiled. Just try not to make everything worse after I leave. That is an absurdly imprecise objective. Still counts. The Primarch regarded him for a long moment, then did something no one in the chamber expected. He extended his hand. Goku took it. For a second. Warrior and Warlord. Anomaly and Primarch. 2 beings from universes so different they should never have met, stood in simple, mutual respect. You have shown me a form of strength this age has nearly forgotten, Guilliman said. Not mercy, not softness. Strength without surrender to cruelty. I do not promise miracles, Son Goku, but I will remember. That's enough, Goku said. He closed his eyes, found the thread, and vanished, not in golden light, not in thunder. Just gone, like a thought finally remembering where it belonged. For a long time after, no one in the chamber moved. Then the machines died all at once. Years later, on worlds that had never seen him, people still told stories of a laughing warrior who descended from a broken sky and burned demons with living sunlight, of a stranger who could have ruled greenskins, humbled space marines, and challenged primarchs, yet cared most about pulling children from rubble and stopping madmen from turning cities into sacrifices, of a fighter so powerful he could have become one more god in a galaxy drowning in gods, but refused the role because he did not want worship, only worthy battles and people worth protecting. The Ecclesiarchy condemned the tale. The Inquisition redacted it. The Astra Militarum embellished it beyond recognition. The Ultramarines recorded it in a quieter way, in sealed strategic archives, in the private memories of warriors who had seen impossible things and survived them. As for Guilliman, he never spoke of Goku publicly, except in the barest operational terms. But sometimes, during the longest nights when reports of atrocity and collapse piled so high that even a Primarch felt the crush of them, He remembered a black-haired alien warrior standing unafraid before the machinery of empire and saying with childlike certainty that power was for protecting people. It was, Guilliman had come to understand, either the most naive thing he had ever heard, or the wisest. And somewhere far beyond the reach of the warp, in a universe where stars felt cleaner and the sky did not bleed, Goku returned to friends who demanded explanations all at once. He laughed, scratched the back of his head, and gave the only answer that felt right. I got lost. Vegeta, naturally, called him an idiot. Whis smiled in that unreadable way of his. Beerus demanded to know whether the foreign universe had produced anyone interesting enough to justify the disruption. Goku looked up at the peaceful sky, felt the warmth of home, and thought of a giant in blue armor carrying a dying empire like penance. Yeah, he said quietly. A few. Then he grinned, because that was still who he was. And because even after a journey through the grim darkness of a universe that fed on despair, he had returned with the one thing that realm had almost forgotten. Not victory, not certainty, hope.